This is part 2 of how I went from being an indie author to an indie publisher. Just a quick recap. I got my Master of Arts degree in history in 2007. I wrote a lot of history. I transitioned to writing fiction novels. I found out I don't know enough about fiction, so I went back to school in 2017 to get a Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing. It was a low residency program. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. There was a lot of challenges. But I definitely learned a lot about the elements of fiction and how important they are in storytelling in order to share a story, in order to share history to people, in order to convey history so that they learn from that story in addition to being entertained by the characters and the plot and the setting and all those things. At the same time, I also had a concentration in publishing. And at the time of graduation in 2019, I had just finished this novel, you can see on the wall there, Resisting Removal. And rather than publish through Lulu like I did before, a publicist I hired suggested I use Ingram or Ingram Spark. And so I did that. And in Ingram, you can create your own imprint. And I did that as well. I used the imprint History Through Fiction because that was my tagline as an author. And I thought, well, as long as I'm going to have an imprint, I need to have a website so that when people see that it's published by History Through Fiction, they can look that up. And then I had this idea that I could combine my knowledge of indie publishing and my experience through my MFA program and the concentration in publishing to launch my own press. On top of that, I still have this integrity for the historical process, and I still want my books to have certain elements of nonfiction in them, because historical fiction authors do just as much work as any nonfiction or academic historians. They do all kinds of research, and why not share some of that research in the stories? Now, it's a delicate balance because you don't want to have the reader be disrupted from the story by having citations in there, but I do think it's a balance that can be reached. And so I started History Through Fiction as a press that's publishes fictional novels based on real history, real events, and that actually cites some of their sources. So our novels have bibliographies and character notes and chapter notes, things like that you don't normally see in fiction. Now, it's been a wonderful but very challenging experience, just like when I wrote my first novel way back in 2010, and I had to go through that learning curve of what it means to be an indie author. Now I'm on that learning curve of what it means to be an indie publisher. It's a lot of hard work, but I really enjoy it, and I think I'm bringing a lot of really great stories into the world. So that's my story of how I went from being an indie author to an indie publisher. Thanks.